Before we go away, since we're both commercial real estate practitioners, let's talk quickly for another few minutes about what's up with this market and what we're seeing. Tough sledding out there. So we'll start with the food and beverage industry. What do you think about them, Wayne, since you've been analyzing Dunkin' Donuts?
Well, there's a lot of activity in the QSRs, the quick serve restaurants. Those are your fast foods, the drive up, and like rightly so. It's all about the less expensive alternative that satisfies our consumer habit, which is nobody cooks at home anymore. And so there was a boom, if you recall. Remember, we were doing Chili's on every corner, and that was the kind of fast casual family type Applebee's
with liquor.
That's right. And so that thing hit the wall.
So they're not doing hit the wall. Because they're not doing business like they used to.
Yeah, and they paid big bucks for deals and sites, and the consumer is no longer able to go out with a family of four and spend $70. They're looking to spend $39.
Oh, here's one for you. Speaking of that, what's the neighborhood chain? 99.
Oh yeah.
They came to Waterbury and they were paying $12,000 or $13,000 a month, triple net for a ground rent in front of the old new mall.
Sure.
And they spent $1 million and change plus furniture to open it. And guess what? It's up for sublease. They closed, and they're looking to sublease it for like $6,500 a month, and you get everything they did for nothing. I mean, talk about you're hitting the wall, to use your words.
Well, and that's right. And when they grow, depends on where you are. But Connecticut, in our experience, there are only so many markets that can really handle the national brand, because we just don't have the kind of density of demographic people with the income levels in more than a few markets to support them. So when they start expanding to our second and third tier markets in Connecticut, there just isn't enough support. So it's not unusual to see the 99 just got a little too aggressive and they paid too much. We're seeing it now, as a matter of fact, I'd share with you though, we're seeing it now that these sites were driven up by the 99s and by banks and some other people that weren't typically in the race for those sites, and so that's why it's hurting.
The race for the sites, chasing the best locations.
That's right. Yep.
And then quickly to finish up, Dunkin' Donuts is becoming an anchor tenant and building these little shopping centers. Do you have any listings for lease that people that want to be around Dunkin' Donuts?
Actually, the good news is we're almost out. We've only got one space in Middletown left, where we had 4 to rent, and we've got one left in Meriden with a couple of sites that we developed. And the bottom line is they could be loaded, but we're not willing to concede to the kind of tenancy or the pricing. Everybody's lowballing.
Right.
And
that's
so
true.
The Dunkin' fellas, they, like everybody else, have seen some decline in business, but the reality is people are still buying coffee, so they're going to make it.
Right.
And they'd rather have the right mix at the right price than they are just to take the next guy that comes along.
So for those of you, tenant mix is very important. I've got a deli on I-84 that does $500,000 a year that my folks would like to retire. I've been working on that. And I have a Country Loft Antiques on the Antique Row in Woodbury for sale for $3 million, and it has full permits to add a world-class bar, restaurant, cooking school, events all year outside under a tent, and that conversion is about $1 million if anybody's interested in that. And
I went up at Centerpoint here too, Tom.
Oh, yeah. Before you go to Centerpoint real quick, I was up at the state legislature, and I know you do this too.
Oh, yeah.
As active citizens, we like to go and testify for bills that we think we could help. And we went to testify on the Antique Trail. It's going to go from Seymour, Connecticut, all the way up into, I think, Enfield.
Oh, really?
On Route 6. So we went to testify for that because I'm working on some really gorgeous 20-acre property in Woodbury. And then here we are today marketing Centerpoint, which is an office condominium that you're in charge of.
Right, we're right here in Centerpoint, Connecticut is the new condominium project, office condominium project that we broke ground in October. And we're right here at the apex of the state. We're on 91. You can see the cars go both directions. And we are inside Centerpoint 1, which was a 35,000-foot office building that we redeveloped about 6 years ago.
Folks, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, my client, the developer, Lenny Liebenhout, does a really nice job. And so we bought the land next door. We designed the product. The market got a little soft on us, but we've developed a product that's actually boomed in the last 10 years around the country, which is a high-quality office space for ownership, though. It's an office condominium. And even though there's been occasional condominiums in the state of Connecticut, they're mostly the kind of stick-built, wood-frame, walk-up, two-story kind of doctor's offices.
Right.
But in the rest of the country, the properties like we designed is that it's It's steel structure, it's block, it's brick, it's gorgeous, it's high quality. You get a storefront type location, you get a marquee. And so and we layered on top the most important thing, which is that is a green project. It's a sustainable, LEED Silver registered office project. And so it is unlike any other project in the state of Connecticut.
And on a future Tom and Wayne show, or Wayne and Tom show, we will talk about green buildings and the benefits to the tenants and the landlords as we go forward. But Wayne just covered the office market. We're just giving you a little taste of what's going on in this market with different property types and the economy in general. Industrial, Wayne, what are you seeing in your world?
Actually, I've been watching the activity in a couple of markets with these tax appeals, and it's funny, industrial boosted. From my observation, we sold a building up here in Cromwell, and we're watching it about 2 years ago, and it was creeping up. It was creeping up to $60, $70 a square foot for an industrial building, and that's not the norm.
On a sale value.
Yeah,
Yep.
on a sale value. And so, the norm, and for the kind of rental alternative, you should be paying $4 to $6 a foot. If you're going to get $70, $80 a foot for your building, you should be charging $7 to $8 a square foot. And so it didn't seem right, but they're coming back. They're coming back down. They're coming back to the $35, $40, $45, $50 for an industrial building. But here's the problem. The problem is there's only so much absorption. And so there's a lot more availability. And so you will see $15, $20 a foot industrial sales because some people have to sell wherever they can find a deal. And you'll have people demanding $60 a foot and they won't get it. So the sweet spot seems to be that it's falling into that kind of $40 range again, which I think is a reasonable value level for the product type.
Wow, that was quite the overview, Wayne.
Didn't know I did that.
As a Society of Office and Industrial Realtors member, over in my area, I represent the Naugatuck Industrial Park and a 20-mile ring around Waterbury. There's a real flight to quality, and the buildings that are modern and that have above 18-foot ceilings and a little room for expansion, they'll sell for those $50, $60, $70 a square foot range. And there's a shortage of them. You can't find them. And I'm finding the problem in my area, since Waterbury was a metalworking area, all the old crusty buildings with low ceilings, they're $10 a foot if
and
you're
there's
lucky.
nobody for them. That's right.
Yeah,
There's nobody for 'em.
there are if they're bargains. There's bargain. In every category, if somebody's getting a bargain, I still think there's buyers if they can get through the environmental. And some other Wayne and Tom show, or Tom and Wayne show, we will have Sam Haydock from BL come on and talk about environmental, because it's a critical aspect of almost anything, underground tanks and the like. All right, let's switch forward now. Wayne, you and I meet regularly at the International Council of Shopping Centers meeting. You've allowed me to come down and help you run the booth in New York City every year. What's your take on retail?
Well, I think that it's still a little soft. I think that there are certain vendors, certain products that are growing, and there's a lot that are tailing off. The 99 restaurant, the overexpansion of any brand is still in a contraction mode to find the right mix and pulling back and saying, I can only be in so many markets. So it's not that robust, but it is picking up in other places in the country, probably a little faster than it is here, is what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and are the 99s or the food people in the right neighborhood where there's minimum competition with customers that can spend money, to have
That's
a
the
good
bottom
time?
line. People are spending money at Walmart, saving money.
Right, but that's another big topic as far as, do people still want Walmarts in their towns? I know we have two trying to come to Greater Waterbury. We have a regular one expanding. We're talking about another big box coming in. So it's a real mixed bag, and these deals, from a broker's point of view or a city's point of view, take
forever.
2, 3, 4 years to complete.
And that's why you don't see them come up that often, because there's not that much stomach in the developer's pocketbook to deal with that long of an unknown.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I have a developer that's been coming to me to buy an old, beautiful 20,000 square foot Dodge dealer with high ceilings, and they want to convert it to an office use. And they look, keep making offers that my sellers won't take. And then finally they said to me, they grumble, and I finally said, look, why don't you go to your tenant, and this comes from what you were just saying, why don't you go to your tenant and ask them to come up with $15,000 a month for a tie-up fee while you try to figure it out. We'll take the building out of play, you tie it up, and if you want it, away we go, because you said the developers don't have the stomach to pony up anymore.
Well, and you also, in the state of Connecticut, we have real issues with what the towns will approve, and so it's a huge risk. And you can only fund $50,000, $100,000 in so many losing sites that for an unknown, because either a lizard walked across the way or somebody in the back room that was in the town for the last 60 years said, I don't think there should be another store in my town. That's very difficult, and it doesn't mean everything is the right thing in every town,
Well-
but the process is so burdened.
This is why we hope that if you're another broker, you might want to come to us and do a co-broke with us, or if you're a principal and you want some expertise, we do this for a living, we like doing it. And to finish up the conversation today, let's go the housing industry. Let's start with single-family homes, and then we'll go to multi.
How's your house?
Great, I love it.
Well, you're in one of those, I'm old enough to live here communities.
Over 55, they do everything for you, except this winter, they didn't want to shovel my roof.
I remember you
It
called
was
me,
a
you're on the
problem.
roof, you were on the roof, I thought you were having a heart attack.
Yeah, well, generally though, I do like it, but you know, the single-family housing industry still having a tough time in Connecticut. Selected markets may be doing some business, but that's a slow go. What are you seeing?
I see the same thing. I think there's, in fact, I was driving around the other day. I don't do too many appraisals anymore, very seldom, but I was asked to look at an old Simon I looked at before. I hadn't been in this neighborhood, and there actually was like a half-finished subdivision there. The street never existed, so it was in the last couple of years. The one that we're looking at is the same project I looked at 10 years ago that didn't work then. Somebody tried to make it work, didn't do it fast enough. So, I mean, there's a lot of inventory opportunities to do it when it's time.
But I'm finding the developers, I have a lot of developers out looking for that stuff, but they want deep discounts, because if you're not 15% below the rest of the market or more, you're not going to sell the end product.
And they don't know how long it'll take. You own this project for 1 extra, 2 extra years, the taxes, the holding costs, the interest. You're only going to make, people think developers make fortune. They do, but at substantial risk. They can lose the fortune just as
Right,
fast.
and they haven't been making the fortunes they used to make, because the market's over, the banks aren't lending unless you don't need the money and you have 30 or 40% down. And that's another subject for another day. And as far as multifamily, that's a bright spot in Connecticut. All the multifamily developers say they have more tenants than they can service.
And this is what happens when it gets tougher to own a home, when you move from if you're transitioning from losing your home, unfortunately, things like this, your only alternative is to rent. And so there tends to be an uptick on rental activity, rental demand, and actually the pricing of housing goes up because of the demand, because in Connecticut, you can very, very difficult to build a multi-family project from scratch.
All right, we're rolling to the end here. Website, phone number?
Propertypolitics.com.
You're not going to give a phone? 235-8888. I know his number by heart.
You put my phone number on the
Oh,
internet.
boy.
God.
Okay, Tom Hill, TomHill.com, and WATR Radio every Saturday from 12 to noon, live phone calls. Wayne will be a regular guest.
Wait, where's your phone number? You gave him mine.
203-755-HILL, and you can also hear me on Church and State over at WTIC, 3 to 6 in the afternoon every now and then. I want to thank former Governor John Rowland and Pastor Will Marotti, your friend,
From Meriden.
for having me on the program. And watch for us, folks. Lots more to come.